Sophia, I feel like you need to mute your mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jorge's painting. Just give me 1 second.
Welcome, everyone, as you start to hop into the event. I'd love to see where you're joining from in the chat and what organization you are representing.
Are you able to see the presentation?
Hi, everyone. We're just going to give you a couple of minutes till the rest of the people join, and we're going to start just in a few moments.
Natis, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So hi, everyone. In case you missed Laura, we just want to welcome you to our panel discussion today. If you can just share in the chat, where are you coming from? Like, where are you connecting from? What organization are you from? And then basically what brought you here. That'll be great. And we're going to start just in a few moments, okay? Okay, hello everyone. I want to welcome you all to the second event of the Alpha Entrepreneurs Power Up series. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today with us. We're pleased to have you join our conversation about building multigenerational wealth for Hispanics. So as I just previously mentioned, before we begin and while we wait for everybody to tune in, please share in the chat where are you connecting from and what brought you here today to be here with us. I'm excited to see how far our reach is, as I know we have registration from all across the country and even in Latin America. So I see a couple of people already connected in the chat, some of our Alpha Familia joining us. So I see people from Baltimore, Wayland, Massachusetts, Boston, Linfield, Mass, sunny South Florida, Puerto Rico. Wow. So that's great. Thank you very much, Framingham. Thank you and welcome everyone. So let's just move on. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. I am Natalie Calabrasimo. I am the director of the Financial Literacy Committee at Alpha Boston. I've been part of the Alpha Familia for more than 3 years already, and I'm excited here to be today with you to open this great event we have organized especially for you. To those who are new to Alpha, just to give you a little, context on who we are the first Latino professional association in the United States, established in Los Angeles back in 1972. We have our chapter Boston since 2000. So we are a national nonprofit organization for Latino entrepreneurs, professionals, and students. Alpha is dedicated to enhancing opportunities for Latinos in business and entrepreneurial pursuits and creating more diversity in corporate America. Our mission is to empower and develop the Latinx individuals as leaders of character for the nation in every sector of the global economy. Today, Alpha entrepreneurs and the Committee of Financial Literacy want to continue with the mission by providing our Latinx professionals, business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, and agents of change with the connections, content, and opportunities that are essential to continue closing the economic gap in our Hispanic community. So before we start with the first amazing panel we have this evening, let me just mention a couple of housekeeping items. So first of all, please use the chat as you have been doing so far to submit all of your questions as they arise, and we will go over them during the Q&A section. Also, keep in mind, this is a 3-session event, so we're gonna have 2 great panel discussions and a tequila tasting class. So please keep being connected after we end the first session. Go grab your pen, start taking notes, and mentally prepare yourself to get the most out of this event. We will also share a link with multiple resources to help you dive deep into the topics we'll be covering today. Plus, we're going to be sharing with you guys also the profiles of all the amazing speakers we have tonight so you can stay connected with them as well. So moving on to our agenda for the evening, during our first panel, we'll be discussing the fundamentals of creating wealth. Our experts will be sharing their knowledge and experience about the financial professionals' effective way to invest, the different vehicles, and ways to increase wealth for the next generations. So to leave the floor to the experts, I would like to introduce you to our moderator for this panel, Jorge Flores. Jorge Flores is an accredited investment fiduciary. He's a passionate leader, advisor, investor, and philanthropist based in Boston, Massachusetts. Jorge has more than 15 years of experience in financial services and has built a thriving wealth management practices, serving business owners, high net worth families, and special focus on cross-border investors seeking wealth management advice in the United States. In addition to serving his advisory clients, Jorge also serves as a managing director for a Boston-based venture capital firm that seeks and invests in disruptive technologies, founders, and companies with origins in Latin America and a vision expanding their market into the United States. So I'll pass it over to Jorge.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for having us and putting this together. I know for me, this is a huge passion to be able to share our knowledge and really do what we can to elevate nuestra gente and help us really become the representative voice that's commensurate with the numbers we are in our population of the Latinx and Hispanic community. So thank you once again. Nice to be here, everyone. My name is Jorge Flores, as Natalie mentioned. We have a great panel tonight, and what I wanted to do was really kick us off with an interesting kind of intro rather than read off people's bios. I thought it'd be great to go ahead and introduce our guests and then have them kick off with a couple of questions. So the format for tonight is really going to be more of a fireside chat. It's not going to be a lecture, and it's not going to be any type of presentation. What we really want this to be is giving everyone on this webinar an opportunity to understand what it takes to start to build multi-generational wealth. And I guess my role is to kind of hone in all of this wealth of knowledge and put it and package it in a way where it's not just palatable for everybody on this webinar to understand, but also hopefully motivates you to take it to the next part. So with that being said, let me go ahead and bring Ana Zamora from Zamora's Wealth Strategies and Todd Ingwerson from Savior Wealth Management, and have each of you, what I'd like to do is, rather than just your traditional name, rank, and file, please tell us a little bit about your firm, the clients you like to work with, the years in business, and why you're passionate about your vocation. I think that's going to be a great place for us to start. And Ana, ladies first, please give the honor. And if we can keep these down to 60 seconds, so we have a lot to unpack here, I want to make sure we're good on time. So go ahead, Ana, take it away. And you're on mute. Ana, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jorge, and hi, everyone. The name of my practice is Ana Zamora Financial Strategies. I have been an economist for 20 years, and I have been in practice in this field for 5 years. I work with women, entrepreneurs, and members of the LGBTQ plus community. I do what I do because I have a talent for it, and I love building aware and honest relationships with my clients. I am a firm believer that awareness combined with trust and planning is the magic recipe to well-being. I am very grateful for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you today. But mostly, I thank you for the interest in this topic, and thank you, Alpha, for honoring me with this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Todd.
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy to be a part of this. Although I'm not Hispanic, I did study abroad. I had a passion for learning Spanish and met my wife in Uruguay. Have a lot of family there, own a house there. I'm very proud that my 11-year-old who is taking Spanish, the teacher said, if anybody has a question, they can ask the teacher or they can ask my daughter, Francesca. So
awesome.
Very, very happy about that. So I started Save Your Wealth a number of years ago. I've been in the business actually for 25 years. I've been a certified financial planner since 2006. Work with families and business owners and some institutions, mainly focused around financial planning and investment management. And think outside the box a little bit. One reason why we named our company Savior, not because it's a religious organization, but I believe many people are not looking out for some of the pitfalls when it comes to risk management and investment management. The market doesn't always just go up. So there's really great opportunities to protect yourself when the market may be a little overextended like it is today.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here. And I've had a great time, preparing for today with both of you over the last couple of weeks. So let's jump right into it. So I think what would be great for our audience to understand is maybe giving us a baseline of some of the topics and concepts we're going to go through today, because I want us to all just not have assumptions, but I'd rather us kind of be on the right page altogether. So as we take this journey together this afternoon, we all kind of have the context of where we're starting from. Anna, I'd love for you to share with our group here is, what is an FA? What is a financial advisor? What do financial planners do? Why are there so many names? Why don't you kick us off with that, please?
I will tell you that this is a title, financial advisor, financial planner, investment professional. It's a title that is used for lots of people in this field. And it is very confusing for the public. I'm going to say that it was confusing to me, when I was younger and starting to plan. There are advisors in this field that dedicate themselves to only manage assets. And what that means is, hey, give me $1 and I will grow it to be $5 by putting it to play in the stock market. That's an investment advisor, and also called a financial advisor. There are advisors that talk deeply, with their clients about, the relationship that they have with money. And, more or less, I like the money coach. They know their families and they are with them, for a long period of time. They like building relationships. And there are other advisors that only write a plan for you. And they leverage technology, softwares, algorithms, and they charge you for it, but they don't really manage anything for you. So for me, it has a very broad definition. There is no really right or wrong definition for a financial advisor or financial planner. In my opinion, you have to want to plan with different people, right? You have to date several people, because no one advisor knows it all. So like going to a family doctor. When you go to a family doctor, they know a little bit of everything. But if you have a specific need, for example, for your heart, well, they refer you to a cardiologist, right? So it's the same thing with financial planning and financial advising. So again, if I were to define it in a simple way, I will say that a financial advisor is someone that studied and became an expert on something related to finances and has the skill and the willingness to educate, their clients with integrity, always taking in consideration what is best for the client and not for themselves.
Oh, I love that. That is exactly the antithesis of everything that we do. Not the antithesis, the core of everything that we do. Thank you for sharing. And we to take it a little step further too, Todd, I'd like you to just kind of briefly go over and again, keep the answers tight because we have a lot to uncover here. What is a CFP? Like, what's the process? Why is it so important? And maybe you can kind of go off of some of the answers because I know Anna had a couple of trigger points.
Exactly. Actually, just to expand on what Anna was saying was, there's certain things that I'm passionate about and I would consider myself an expert at, but I cannot do everything. And when a certified financial planner is involved, or any financial advisor, they want to have a network of other professional advisors to help implement the plan. Because there's many things, certainly investments are very important, but there's a lot of non-financial or non-investment related things that are truthfully maybe even more important. When it comes to risk management, for instance, if a breadwinner in a young family was to pass away and they didn't have life insurance, okay, that is likely a problem, either if they have a mortgage or need to get kids through school, or for parents who might unfortunately go into a nursing home if they haven't planned accordingly, even with the proper trust documents or long-term care insurance. That could certainly be detrimental to the other surviving spouse and the beneficiaries of what they expected to possibly receive down the road. So by bringing in the other parts of the financial planning process, when you're looking at risk and risk management, so that again encompasses nursing home planning, death, it could be really any risk that's out there if you own a business or if you're just protecting your home, just like buying auto insurance. Then you have estate planning, and estate planning is in many ways very important when you're talking about wills and trusts, but it could be as simple as naming the proper beneficiary form, okay, on your life insurance, your 401k plan, your retirement account. Even having the correct titling for a home is very important. And a lot of those things, it doesn't matter what's in your will or your trust, whoever's written on those forms, it's going to go to. And then doing everything to make sure it flows in the most efficient manner, not only from, again, the beneficiary perspective, but also from a tax perspective. So bringing in estate planning attorneys for the estate plan, bringing in tax professionals to make sure that your plan is most tax efficient. And then, retirement planning. Okay, looking at the different employer benefits that are offered to you through your employer, and it may be a 401k, it could be stock options, it could be many different plans. And then tying all of those together, in addition, charitable inclinations. So really the financial planning process and being a certified financial planner is just as important about the overall planning as it is managing the professional advisor network and making sure that everybody is working towards the same goal and same plan.
Oh, I love it. That's so true. Folks, on the call, what's really triggered here, and having been a practitioner myself, is I've told clients that anybody that tells you that they know everything or they alone can do it, that's a great example for you to run as fast as you can, because there's a certain element of humility that as financial advisors, we need to understand that we can't possibly know everything. What is important is that your financial advisor, your financial professional, be resourceful, right? It's our job to know which strings to pull and where to go. So really thank you both for kind of clarifying our baseline of what we're going to be talking today. The goal for today, all right, so I was giving this a lot of thought, and from a cultural perspective of multi-generational wealth, where are people? Why is our community getting left behind? What are we not doing? And some of the things that Anna and Todd touched on were just little crumbs make up something very significant, and it's not a matter of one investment taking you to the promised land. In fact, what we really want to accomplish today is that we want to, and everyone take note of this, we want to break the cultural norm of tucking away money under your mattress and expecting your children to be your retirement plan. This is going to explain why we have to break that chain. Your children or your children to be will not be and should not be your retirement plan. They should be someone that will be part of your family and will have their own life and enrich. And the younger we are and the earlier we start, the faster we can start building not just for our own wealth, but setting our children up for success. So multi-generational wealth, in a quick definition, is really not just taking advantage of the tax code and the tools that we have at our disposal, not just to invest, but also to coordinate, as Todd was mentioning. It's also an opportunity for us to look forward, but also understanding that we have, and I think many of us on the call today can be considered part of the sandwich generation. you've heard of all these fancy terms, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, etc. But the sandwich generation is us. Really, we're stuck. Somos la carne. We're the meat of the sandwich. And there's going to come a point where we have our own families and we're going to have to provide for. And then there's the other part of the sandwich where we have aging parents who didn't necessarily plan for retirement. And in fact, we are that retirement, right? So Anna and I were talking really candidly, and I'll let Anna explain to you why she got into this. But I'd love for us to kind of understand some stories, because I think that's really what resonates with people. So Anna, why don't you share with us a little bit of kind of like what got you into this, and what are some of those cultural norms that you may have come into hand, and some of the things that you've done to kind of circumvent all of having to worry about the future?
Well, what really got me into this field was really my own planning. I was actually looking at a very young age, at 34, I started to look for long-term care. And I will tell you that story later. But I saw it in my family twice, right? I saw two people in my family, they didn't really plan well. And, at the time in Colombia, people really didn't plan for retirement. Like Jorge said, the kids have their retirement plan. And yes, some parents have some assets. Maybe they have a home that later on they can sell, or they have a business, but usually they pass the business from one generation to the next, right? They don't have a really an exit strategy for themselves. So in my case, I became really, how would I say? I became interested in this topic because I didn't want to repeat the story. I really wanted to be the alpha. I wanted to just, change that pattern, and I decided to move to the US. And I'll tell you that, something that really helped me is that my parents actually, I told you that I went to school for economics, but I didn't tell you that I paid for school, right? My parents actually funded 100% of my education. And that action, that single action alone, had a tremendous effect in my financial future. It allowed me to start saving aggressively for my goals, one of them to move to the US, and I moved to the US at the age of 19 by myself. And for retirement, right? Instead of having to play catch up. So, if you guys are new to financial planning, and you maybe are starting with a debt burden, credit card debt or student loan debt, then it will be a good idea for you to realize, the importance of generational wealth.
Thank you, Anna. Todd, you've bring more than 25 years of experience as a financial planner, financial advisor, wealth advisor, and I'm sure you've just about seen it all. I think it's fair to say both Anna and I have also seen quite a bit, but 25 years in the business, definitely you start to walk away with some great tidbits. So can you maybe perhaps share with us some of those tidbits that would really kind of revolve around how do we break that chain? And I promise you folks on the phone, we are going to get to some specifics, but I think storytelling is what's really going to drive our points in this theme of multi-generational wealth.
Right. Thank you, George. Or Jorge. So communication is absolutely key. And I see that Eileen actually made a comment that our people don't talk about money. And it is so true. Many families just don't talk. The parents don't bring it up. The children are afraid to ask. So there's no communication when it comes to that multi-generational transfer of wealth, what the plan is. And, there's been certain cases where people will have maybe in their will whether or not they want to even be buried or cremated, and the kids don't even know, and they may actually end up making a mistake and then find out about it later because they just never even had that discussion. We've had instances where a spouse, between the spouses, the husband was doing pretty much everything, all the bill paying, all the investing, all the planning, never brought the other spouse into it whatsoever. So when he passed away, she had to, for almost 2 years, just monitor the mail to determine what the bills were, where the assets were, was there insurance, had no idea what was going on, and completely had a nightmare of understanding exactly what was, what she needed to do. So we actually encourage our clients to go through a whole process of, we call it the peace of mind checklist, where you're going over each and every possible item, whether it's different liabilities that people have, your investments, the estate plan summary, insurance, all the different aspects, all summarized in one area. and then not only shared with the other spouse, but also sharing with who they think is the most responsible child or possible trustee, or other family member or friend that might be able to help them, even if it's an attorney if they don't have one of them. So our clients know that if anything was to happen to one of the spouses or both spouses, the children know that they need to contact us, and we can then guide them through the correct steps in order to settle the estate and just make sure that everybody is taken care of.
I love it. No, it's so true. And I think we can sit here for hours just telling story after story of like, oh my gosh, I grew up in a generation where, The Sopranos was a big deal. And I use this example often. There's another artist, but formerly known as Prince. These are, multi-million-dollar estates. And here you have, Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini died with roughly like $50 million in his kind of estate. But by the time that it went through probate, the family is actually squabbling over what was left over, which was somewhere to the tune of $4 million, because all of the assets had been depleted, battling in court, and nothing was properly labeled. So just because you have a lot of money doesn't exactly know what you're doing. It doesn't mean you know what you're doing. And this is why this conversation is so important, specifically to our community, especially as we start to think about how do we start thinking moving forward? How do we get out of the rut, right? Todd, there was a great book. I have not read it, admittedly, but you were very passionate, and Anna's eyes lit up when you mentioned it. Folks in the audience, get your pen and paper ready. This is a book that I see has made a big impact. And it's not the first time I heard a financial advisor discuss it, but Todd, maybe you can share with us the title and the author.
Sure. So we actually give this book out to many of our clients, really for their kids. It was something that my father actually started in the business back in 1972. I worked with him for many years, and he had me read this while I was probably in junior high school. The name of the book is called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. It was written in 1926 and still rings true today. But essentially there's a man who is the richest man in Babylon, and all of his friends are saying, well, how did you become so wealthy? When all of us, are sort of living paycheck to paycheck. May not have said that back in Babylon, but nevertheless. And his answer was that he paid himself first. So a lot of people today, they get a paycheck, they, pay their rent, they pay their car payment, they go out to dinner, they do everything. And then if they have anything left at the end of the month, then they might save it. Okay. Well, Richest Man in Babylon would say, pay yourself first. So put 5 or 10% of your income away, maybe into a 401k plan or just traditional savings, some type of an investment account, where it's going away before you get anything or your hands on anything else. Then you've already paid yourself first. You've already set money aside. Okay, we can talk about where to invest that and how to invest it after, but then you pay all of your bills. And if you have anything else left at the end of the month, then great. Then you maybe go out to dinner or you start saving for a vacation or whatever it might be.
You have touched on a point so near and dear to my heart. Folks, and I said it at the very beginning too. Sorry, Todd, but this is the passion, right? This is why we do what we do. There's no investment in this universe that's going to take you all by itself to the promised land, right? What you've hopefully heard now are a couple of, if I had like a little flash and they can pop up on the screen, with the big Kazam, number one, communication. That's huge, right? Communicating with your family, having an advisor as maybe a third party is a great opportunity to intervene with, the elders in the family. But number two, it's the behaviors. It's pay yourself first. You got to start with the behaviors. In fact, I'm willing to actually, I know so because I've retired several clients in my career, and it really comes down to that. The heavy lifting has to be done by you. These little, making sure that the beneficiaries are properly labeled and making sure that everything is properly titled and you have a goal. Those are literally the low-lying fruit and the things you can do. You actually don't even need to hire anyone to do that. You can pretty much take care of that on your own, making sure that you fill out the 401k stuff at your employer. I think it's the Fidelity portal or wherever it is. Just make sure that you do that. We have a question from Kenny that we'll get to towards the end of the conversation regarding trustees and all that stuff. That might be a little more deep. But Todd, I want you to share with our audience today. Give us some like other low-lying fruit. Like there's so much easy stuff to do that's going to work towards building multi-generational wealth.
So you don't need to go to an estate planning attorney in order to like George said, have the right beneficiary forms filled out. Again, whatever is in your will or your trust, it doesn't matter. Whoever is on a beneficiary form for a 401k, life insurance, or an IRA, or something like that, it is called a will substitute. It's going to go to those people that you put down as soon as there's a death certificate. It avoids probate, and it goes, again, very efficiently directly to the person that you list. Another way to do it is people typically have a large portion of their wealth tied up in real estate. And people think that they need to go to an attorney in order to make sure that your real estate goes to your future generations. But there are ways by simply changing the title of the home, so the ownership of the home, from typically either, say, just my name alone. If I add my spouse with rights of survivorship, whoever passes away first, the remainder is going to go to. You can actually even put it in what's called tenants in common, where you can actually list my portion to go to a specific beneficiary and my wife's portion to go to another beneficiary. Or by adding on the children with even just 1, 2, or, it could be 1 to however many children, and it could be a very small percentage, even just 1%. Again, with rights of survivorship, when both parents pass away, it's automatically going to transfer to the remaining people that are on that title. That's another form of a will substitute. And again, you don't need to go to an estate planning attorney to do that. You can go to the Registry of Deeds and simply make those changes. Now, you do need to have tax considerations, because gifting, depending on how much it is, I'd always recommend consulting with a CPA for tax advice, and obviously an attorney, of course, for legal advice. But there are very simple things that people can do that take care of the majority of their assets. Their 401k, you can actually put a payable on death form, which is a beneficiary form, on a bank account. Okay, or you can do joint titling with rights to survivorship on a bank account. On an investment account, you can have what's called a TOD, which is a transfer on death form. So they're all beneficiary forms that, again, can be attached to almost anything and avoid probate, go directly to those people that are listed.
But they're very, those are what you mentioned are actually like the most cost-effective ways of a will. It's not directly a will, but everyone on the call, don't assume that the court's going to sort this out for you. In fact, understand that the court is represented by the crown or the state, if you will, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that they get to tax revenue that they were never able to collect due to the passing of someone. So don't assume that the court's going to work in your favor. These are the low-lying fruit items that we need to be adding to our arsenal so that we can build that multi-generational wealth. Right. I want to transition us a little bit more to now kind of the investments. I think folks always get rattled up with the investments. And I think if we do a great job in this presentation, folks will come away, it's like, oh, that's not as sexy as I thought. Well, yeah, it's not supposed to be sexy. It's just putting in the hard work, putting in the behavior, and surrounding yourself with the right group of advisors. And by advisors, I mean your lawyers, when the time is right, financial advisors, there's a lot of advisors, especially the ones on this call, that don't charge you to meet. The value is on us to show what we're worth and to your situation. So taking care of those things. But Anna, maybe you can share with us some effective ways. Maybe Todd and Anna can share both of these, some effective ways to invest and just kind of, again, low-lying fruit, and we'll kind of take it to the next level after you guys rattle some off.
Well, yes, there's several, oh my God, so many tools, so many financial tools in the marketplace. But the first thing that I want to say, before anything, like Jorge was saying, is mindset, right? That starts with everything. Your awareness with the relationship that you have with money and, where that comes from is the first step towards, a good financial plan. So take your time to really, dig deep. And do it with your advisor, and do it with your therapist, and do it with your human resources, as I call them, right? Everybody that is around you is your human resource department. When it comes to investment, okay, let's talk about the traditional. I know that Todd's going to talk about, something else because he does a lot of alternative investments. So let me talk about the traditional investments. And these are the places in where we are used to put our money, right? And that is the stock market, and you can do inside the stock market, you can do qualified accounts like traditional IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, and you can do non-qualified accounts which are, you know, investment accounts that you open, and you can do annuities. There is also the bank, the traditional bank account, you know, the safe and sound bank account. There's real estate. And in this part, we're talking about real estate investments, not your home. I have a lot of clients that when I ask them, what are your assets? They mention the home. And it is true, if you pay cash for your home and you have equity in your home, or if you put a lot of, you know, a huge portion for a down payment, then you can call it, okay, I have some equity that I can do something with. This property is bringing me cash, not draining me. And so that is a confusion, you know, especially in our market, that owning a home and while you're paying it is an asset and it's actually a liability. And the other place in where you can actually put some money away, I wouldn't call it investing, I will call it saving also, but with a purpose, is life insurance. So all of these options come in different flavors, and depending on your situation and your plan, you and your advisors will choose what is more suitable. And this is important because, you know, a lot of people ask for opinions of their coworkers or their friends on how to invest. And they may be doing great, right? But for their own needs and wants, and they're different than you. So I will say that, you know, nothing is good or bad until you compare it with something else. And all of this investment, all of these traditional and even alternative investments, they have a place in a good plan. So whoever comes to tell you that one thing is better than the other one is only trying to sell you something. A good plan has different strategies. And first of all, a good plan has a risk management strategy, okay, where insurance and boring accounts play a big role. And I said boring because, as Jorge was saying, right, everybody's very excited about how to invest the money, the stock market, and even crypto. But what people don't realize is that, you know, they're not excited about insurance or boring accounts, but there is risk. There are down markets. You know, the stock market goes down. There are recessions that happen, and we have to have a plan for down markets.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. And that's, I think,
Absolutely.
a perfect segue into Todd. This is his baby. In addition to, you know, and let me be very clear to the audience. Anna, Todd, and I, we all do the same thing, and it's not stepping toes. So we tried to parse this out in a way where there were some areas where we knew a little more about than others, and we tried to really position us. But it's I want you to understand that what Todd's about to talk about, Anna knows just as well, and what Anna talks about, obviously Todd and I know. So I just want to set that stage. But Todd, this is something that you love, is just really understanding how to manage through you know, tough markets, or just what is the role of what is commonly now being referred to as alternatives. Maybe
Right.
share a little bit about, unpack what is an alternative, and how is it defined, and then maybe some ideas of like things that we would be considering in a globally diversified portfolio.
Great. Yes, I was definitely going to preach a couple of things. One, diversification. So not putting all your eggs obviously in one basket. I'm sure everybody's heard that before. But it's not just diversification among stocks and bonds, but it's what are some other asset classes that can give good returns, maybe when stocks and bonds are not giving such great returns. So I actually started in 1996, so saw the market go up 100%, then it went down 50, then it went up 100, then it went down 60, and now we're where we are today, up a couple hundred since the bottom of 09. But going through those downturns, very difficult for clients, especially when they're living off of their assets. If you just put your money in the S&P 500, you ran the risk of possibly running out of money. Okay, if you had just a 4% withdrawal rate, if you retired in the year 2000, you could have run out of money by the year 2016. So another book that I would recommend highly is very interesting. It's a historical perspective on different manias that have occurred in the past. Okay, today you're hearing all about crypto. Well, back, you know, in the 1600s, it might have been about tulip mania. Okay, so the book is called The Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. It was actually written by Charles Mackay in 1841, was the first edition. And it talks about how, you know, most people tend to invest, okay, at the end of a, you know, a big change in phenomenon, whether it's the railroads, whether it's technology back in 1999. the tulip mania, or maybe even crypto today. Now, crypto, the currency, and just to comment on that, when you're buying the token like Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever it might be, truthfully, I think that is more of a gamble today because nobody knows where it's going to go, up, down, or sideways. It's been extremely volatile. A year ago it was at 6,000, went to 60,000. Now it's at 40 or around there. So it's all over the place. But the blockchain technology is here to stay. And it is very similar to the internet where it was maybe 20, 25 years ago. So the technology behind it is actually going to be here to stay. And there are going to be some very exciting companies. Unfortunately, many are not necessarily publicly traded today. But something like Coinbase, which is a platform where you buy and sell your token, okay, they're going to make money on either side of the trade. So that actually might be something that you could invest in. I'm not recommending it necessarily, but there are a lot of companies out there that are sort of the picks and shovels, okay, comparing it to the gold rush. People who went to look for gold, not a lot of them made a lot of money. Okay, but the people who were selling the picks and the shovels and all that stuff, they did make a lot of money. So there's a lot of infrastructure behind blockchain that is very important. But I would just say today, the stock market is at all-time highs. The valuation of stocks are at the highest that they've ever been, even more expensive than they were in 1929 and also the year 2000. People are borrowing money using margin, okay, and taking on an extreme amount of risk at these levels. More money went into the stock market in the first 6 months of this year than the last 20 years combined. Wow. Okay, so this is sort of the end of the bull market. So then you say, well, what about bonds? Well, interest rates, as we know, are almost at all-time lows. So as Anna said, looking at real estate as another alternative, truthfully, and borrowing money to do it is a great strategy because you're getting extremely low interest rates and you might want to have that fixed for 30 years. Typically, interest rates go in a 40-year cycle. Today, they're at the lowest point they've been in 40 years. Well, 20, 30 years from now, most likely they're going to be a lot higher. So if you're able to lock in a low rate today, that certainly could be very beneficial to you. But when interest rates go down, bond prices go up. So if interest rates are at the lowest level almost in history, that means bond prices are extremely high. So if you're just looking at stocks and bonds, you have a lot of risk in your portfolio. So looking at commodities, for example, they have not performed extremely well over the last 10 years, but I'm sure that everybody has seen prices go up recently, either at the gas pump or the grocery store. If you're building a home, okay, all of these materials and different inputs on the commodity side have started to actually break out and go higher. So with the exchange traded funds that are available today, they started coming out, in 99, 2000. Now there's thousands of them. And there's ones that are designed to make money if anything either goes up, okay, or there's ones that make money if things go down. So you can get greater diversification using, again, either commodities or other strategies that are not so dependent upon whether or not stocks go up or bonds go up, but can give you, again, greater diversification and maybe an opportunity to make money as some of those other things go down.
I love it. Todd, I'm going to move us along because we could talk about this all day.
Of course.
And there's a couple of, thank you. That's super insightful. Coffee is another commodity that I've been tracking and I think it's done pretty well. So just to wrap up that section then. So what I heard, stop listening to your coworkers and telling you how to diversify your 401k. Not a good idea. Certainly Google has a lot of information, and depending which way or time you read, it'll say buy this, and then you read the next one, and it goes like the last thing you want to do is what that guy's saying. So there's a lot of conflicting information, and I think really this is where the conversations that you coming to the table with great questions for your financial advisor to at least you're a team, right? It should be a dialogue, and that should be like, tell me what I need to do. It's more of like, here's what I'd like to do. I was thinking this. And really a financial advisor is really there to be that voice of reason and kind of keep the guardrails on your financial plan and that's moving towards your goals. The other thing I heard is, effective ways to invest. Wow, the easy one is your 401k. That's like a gimme, just why not? It's there. That's a great way to get into the market. There's a concept called dollar cost averaging, which is exactly what your 401k is. Every paycheck, a little comes out, and on some days you're going to buy at the all-time highs. Other times you're going to buy at the absolute lows. Other days you're going to buy at the mids. So those are the little things that you can be doing. And then really familiarizing, what I heard as well is familiarize yourself with your employer benefits. We talked a little earlier about, investments are not just stocks and bonds now. It can be a will, an estate plan. It could be insurance. And when people think of investments, I feel like the perception is like, I'm going to get a statement in the mail every day, but no one's getting a statement to their insurance in most cases and saying, "Whoa, I'm up the money." You know, it's just not the way it works. And the same thing with a will. You spent a good chunk of money on a will, but it's not cost prohibitive, only to save yourself a huge headache and the possibility of draining your resources on the back end. So these little things, again, you're not going to look at your will and make, hey, look, my will is up and its valuation. No, it's actually just planning ahead. So bringing this back to multi-generational wealth, and we just kind of unboxed a little bit of the role that traditional investments have and commodities and the global diversification. What I've been hearing a lot, and I know some folks that are in Alpha that are a part of this. I don't know if they're on the call today, but I want to bring to attention the FIRE movement. Anna, can you expand a little bit about the FIRE movement and some of your experience you've had with your clients, and maybe define what FIRE is for folks that may not know?
Of course. So the FIRE movement is a financial philosophy that encourages people to increase their incomes and save aggressively so that they can reach financial independence or retire early. So they basically, live very frugally in order to do this. And what they believe is that there's going to be a reasonable amount of money saved that is going to basically last, right, for the rest of their lives. Let me tell you first that I really like the idea of this movement. It's a mindset, and I really like that mindset because I am a firm believer of the pay yourself method, like told us before. In fact, I ask my clients to agree, to that method before even starting to work with me. So I like the idea, the concept of the FIRE movement and how they do it, because they appreciate, right, that they can do a lot with very little, in terms of, their goals. But the truth is that, I have a prospect, a client that came to me, from the FIRE movement, and she actually came with a decent amount of money saved, right? But not nearly, what she really needed to be retired. So I think the challenge here, and her challenge with this kind of strategy, is that it's not really a strategy. She needed to be extremely aggressive in the stock market, and the stock market had to do extremely well all the time for her assets to grow to the number that she had envisioned, right? But the other challenge, apart from being very aggressive and hoping the stock market does what we want it to do, is that, as Todd was saying before, you need a plan to take a distribution of your money, right? And more or less, we use a Monte Carlo analysis to do so. So we said 4% of, we're going to withdraw 4% of our assets in order to live the lifestyle that we want. It could be another number, but let's just, use 4%. The problem with this is when down markets, like we mentioned, come, and we have all of our assets in one basket, well, that income, guaranteed income for life, really doesn't come from there, right? We need other assets in order to be bulletproof. So we need to diversify. So the movement is great conceptually, but for my client, she became aware of the fact that, hey, this is not my expertise, and I need a plan, for this money to really last me forever, guaranteed income for life. And I needed to make my plan bulletproof because she was young, but she wanted to have a family. So we don't have a crystal ball to know, how the market will do, and down markets really matter. So like Todd was saying before, putting all of our eggs in one basket is not really a strategy. And a recession can last for 2 or 3 years. In the meantime, we better have some place to pull money out from while those investments go back up. So that is, really my thought about the FIRE movement. Love the concept and love what it does. But again, distributing the money, preserving and distributing needs a plan.
I love it. You're so spot on. And Todd has a great story that actually it's not even story. It's more of like the statistical proof that Todd, maybe you can share with us if someone from this FIRE movement had wanted to retire in say 2010, was planning on it, they never saw 2008 coming. What would have happened to their wealth and subsequent generations had they not been properly prepared for a downside? And I think these people on this call today have really, for the most part, from their investing life, has only seen a bull market. Maybe you've seen your parents kind of go through some bad times, but I don't think anybody here has actually seen a down market in their 401k. Todd, how do we get around that?
And a lot of portfolio managers out there who are managing money, a lot of money, have maybe not even seen a down market.
Yeah.
So there's what we use is we look at fundamental research, which are looking at earnings and sales and things that are quantifiable. And as I mentioned, stock prices are extremely high. Earnings really haven't grown all that much. So technically, the stock market is extremely expensive. Okay, there's another type of research which is called technical analysis, which can help you determine how many people are buying at certain levels, how many people are selling, and can give you a better indication on when you want to be selling, when you want to be buying. But I think, George, correct me if I'm wrong, but the statistics or the information you were talking about was if a client had retired in the year 2000 and just invested in the S&P 500, okay, where they were withdrawing 4%, well, the market went down 50%. So all of a sudden, for 3 years, okay, they're withdrawing a higher percentage. All of a sudden, they're withdrawing 8% at the bottom. Okay, then the market came back in 2007, but it's 7 years later, and they were just taking out a significant percentage of their overall portfolio. So their assets did not get back to where the market was in 2007. And then for another year and a half, the market went down 60%. And it wasn't until 2013 or 14 that the market got back to where it was before. So that person who retired in the year 2000 likely will never recover and will actually have to dramatically alter their financial plan. So with diversification, certainly, but taking money off of the table at times like these where the market is extremely overpriced is certainly a prudent thing to do, reducing your risk as opposed to trying to have what they call FOMO, or the fear of missing out. You don't want to just be throwing money into the market. And even the brightest people in the world have done this. I think it was Sir Isaac Newton, I believe, in the Chinese South Shore China, or the South China Sea Company years ago. He was an early investor, did really well, and then he said it was overpriced. He got out. The thing kept going up, just like Tesla maybe today, or you can probably pick a number of things. So he ended up getting back in right at the top, and unfortunately wrote it right down and ended up losing a significant portion of his wealth. So taking money off the table when risk is high and valuations are extremely expensive, and truthfully doing the opposite, like in the markets of 2009. People were selling and getting out of the market in 2009 when they should have been doing the opposite and buying. Or as Warren Buffett likes to say, you should be greedy when people are fearful, and you should be fearful when people are greedy. And right now, based on valuations, I'd say the market is
very greedy.
Very greedy.
Very, very greedy. No, I love it. And we can't drive that point home far enough. I see some comments here, from Estela Budo. You're absolutely right. While most of us are still in our growth stage of like planning for our future generations and our own wealth and creating our own families and leaving something for our children, I think it's important to note that, you just want to be in the market, obviously, and I think one of these cultural things that, abuelita or mama y papa told you is like, I just put it under the couch, and, understandable, we're in a very stable financial market here in the US, and you have to use that to your advantage. If they ever come to you with like, just keep cash, look, I have no problem with cash. In fact, your emergency fund should be cash, and its only job is to collect dust. It's insurance for that one rainy day that it's going to thunder so hard, you're going to be happy you did prepare for that. But anything beyond that, you actually start to lose purchase power because of inflation, right? So too much cash, there is such a thing as too much cash. And really the goal today was sharing with you the perspectives that there's so much more than just stocks and bonds that can that can be considered an investment, that there's so many other places to put your money that have zero correlation with the markets that will still help you save money on the back end and make sure your future generations are taken care of. Folks, I wish I could be here all night. This is so great to see our community, and I've seen the community button, the community counter here continue to grow as the session went on. I'm gonna I want to open Q&A. I wanted to get through as much as possible so that we can really leave some room for our audience to go ahead and ask some Q&A. So I'll start fielding the first ones, and folks, start dropping them in the chat. I'm going to be focusing in the Q&A section. So, or actually, I don't know. I already see a lot here in the chat. So I'm going to start with the first one from earlier. This one came from a gentleman down in Alabama. Wow, awesome. Great to see Alpha Boston making it all the way down there. Mr. Dean has asked, do you recommend an individual or a corporate trustee? And I believe we were talking about wills and trusts. Anna or Todd, either of you want to take that?
If you don't mind, I'd like to take that. So we would actually recommend a corporate trustee. There is very low-cost ways to do it, either, and not necessarily an attorney, but attorney could certainly do it. But somebody like Charles Schwab has very inexpensive trust services. And the reason is because an individual, there's no really way to oversee them and to protect, your kids or your assets from, possibly doing something wrong. And they may not do it intentionally, but it may not be spent the way you instructed it to be, following your trust to the letter. The institution has a legal obligation to do that, and you can rely on them to do that. They can actually be sued effectively if they don't do it. Where an individual, it's very difficult to really keep the reins on them. They may end up putting an addition on their house because they're taking care of your kids, where a corporate trustee would never let that happen.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Thank you. And I think it's also a concept of continuity. If you put someone in charge that you really trusted, great, good for you. But what if something unexpected happens to that individual? Then, well, the good thing is to always kind of keep your finger on the pulse. But if you forget, then that could be very detrimental. So that's a great point, Todd. I think the corporate trustees are a great way to go, and they're not as expensive as people think. And when people bring up the word lawyer or CPA, they think big dollars. Look, your good advice costs good money, but don't look at it as a cost. Look at it as an investment in your future.
Right.
We have a great question here that I would love to get your perspective on. This one comes from Eileen, and her question was, would love a perspective on how females and males differ from their investment styles, and what we could learn from each other.
Eileen, so I primarily work with a lot of women, and I have male clients too, so I can actually give you a good answer. I'll say that the main difference between both, again, beliefs, right? Like, men are very risky. Men are superheroes. Nothing will ever happen to men, unless, I cannot generalize, but in the average mind of a guy, guys are just superheroes, and it's their nature, and I love it. So women, we tend to be more risk adverse. So we are the risk managers of the household. So we balance things out while, and it could be also, it doesn't matter if it's a man, woman, male. We all have feminine and masculine energy, right? We have both. So depending on what's stronger in each of us, that's what's really going to take the adventure side or the, risk management side. I will say that women are very intentional, and they want to know, the whys. They want to know why they are spending money the way they are. How can they change their patterns? Males are more driven to results, solutions, right? Like right away, effective way of going from point A to point B without looking in the middle, about what happened. So investment wise, males are riskier, and they don't really care too much about they invest on. If it's making money, you will totally go for it.
You won't hear the end of it.
Yeah, women, what I've seen is sometimes they're so intentional. They want to invest in companies that are doing, something sustainable. right? And things that are better for, for everybody, for their community. No, I don't want to generalize, because there's,
No,
everything,
but I think
everyone.
it's the men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
Correct.
in co-effect. So I think you're so spot on. I've seen it since I've started in this business, and I think it's a great compliment. Even my wife and I are very much the living reality of that. Todd, I have a great question for you. This one's coming from Francisco Verón Ferreira. What are your thoughts on automated investing? Seems like a more affordable option to hiring an FA while still getting decent returns. So I feel like he's referring to robo advisors.
Right. I think they are a good way. And somebody else made a comment, how do you sort of risk manage with the markets going up or down? There's two ways. You're getting good diversification and also rebalancing. And if you're dollar cost averaging money over time into a vehicle like that, it can actually be very good. So if the market is going down, you're buying more shares. And it's a very inexpensive way, using a robo platform or one of the automated platforms. The problem is, and one reason why I went independent from large companies like UBS, which I worked at for about 8 years, and Prudential, which was taken over by Wachovia, they have very consistent diversification models. But those models do not change whether or not the market is at an all-time high or at an all-time low. And with a robo platform, you're really not getting advice. You're just getting the investment platform, and you are getting diversification, and it is a good, cheap way to invest. I don't have a problem with them. I think the problem will arise when you're looking for advice on optimally tax planning for your individual situation, investing for your individual situation, and then most importantly, getting through difficult times when the market is down 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Are you going to call a robot to get advice? I think you're going to, at that point, say, geez, I should have been working with a professional.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these robo advisors are going through a lot of headache right now. I think I love the technological part of it, the automated and machine learning. However, in the last three, and probably more so in the last 2 years, when all of these markets were unstable, you started hearing the likes of Robinhoods and your Betterments actually like really crumbling. In fact, I believe most of the robo advisors are actually under scrutiny by the Securities and Exchange Commission for not really doing anything and not really putting quality investments inside of them.
Right. Pay for execution.
Yes, exactly. It's yeah.
You may not be getting the best price when you're trading through those platforms because the way they're making money, they might say it's no fee or very inexpensive, but they are actually making money from the market makers. So where you end up buying something at one price, they might have actually bought it at a better price, but they're selling it to you, executing your share transaction at a weaker price.
Nothing beats a human.
Make their money.
Anna, what would you say are some tips on how to find the best financial advisor for you and your needs beyond just 401k?
I will tell you what I did. What I did when I was younger, right? And I was an economist, so I had a pretty good idea. These concepts were really easy for me, but I still today, I do not, manage my own money. I have somebody else, a portfolio manager in my practice managing my money. So a good tip is date with a few advisors. And after, it's a relationship. So go on a date with several, and then based on, what you feel and what you listen, decide who you want to start a serious relationship with. And by the way, these are open relationships, so you can actually commit to more than one, but be honest with all of them. And remember, not one advisor has the market corner and knows it all. One way to find an advisor is obviously through these associations. Alpha is a good way. And also ask the people that you admire, right? People that you know are doing well, people that in your family or your group of friends seem to be doing well and are responsible. Ask them, to refer you to the person that they're working with for you to start dating them.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Todd, do you want to chime in on that as well, or do you have any thoughts?
I'm sure. Just the overall, importance of planning. And not only just planning, but having a written plan. So an actual financial plan that takes a look at your current assets, your liabilities, how much you're spending, how much money is coming in, projecting out through your life expectancy, putting goals, so a goal-based plan, whether or not it's, your own marriage or a marriage of a child or college education or buying a second home, whenever your retirement date is. And then revisiting that plan. So going back to it, it is a living document that you need to constantly refer back to see, are you on track? Are things happening as you expected? Do you need to make adjustments along the way? And any major event that happens in your life certainly may warrant an update of the financial plan. So doing the planning, having it in written form, using advisors, taking their advice, but of course, doing what's comfortable, what you believe is right for you, and having the trust in the advisor and a good relationship where, again, just like you said, you need a data number of them to really find out what is the best fit for you. It's just like in our case, we have some clients that would just not be a good fit, or some potential clients that may not have been a good fit, and there's others that we just gel perfectly.
Perfect. This one comes from Eberto Payares. What are the market signs to know if it's the right time to buy a house, given the trade-offs between low interest rates and all-time high home prices in the market?
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to take that one also.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say something in addition, but go ahead, Todd.
Sure. So if it is your primary residence, I would suggest seriously considering buying a home, even though prices are high. And that's for a couple of reasons. I'd rather see you pay your own mortgage, than somebody else's. There are tax benefits to it, tax deductions that you can get for the interest of a loan, and you're borrowing money at all-time historically low interest rates. So I'd recommend that it's a fixed 30-year mortgage. So borrow as much as you can for as long as you can is sort of the saying. And if it goes down, that of course is unfortunate. But if you're going to be living there for a long period of time, most likely over a long period of time, you're going to end up okay. Speculating in real estate in the investment side, it is difficult. You need to weigh the options and how much maybe income you're able to receive from it, how much money you're putting down. Again, what's in your favor are the fact that interest rates are low, but prices are ridiculous. And the question is, can you even get something? In our area, something comes on the market. Yesterday we were looking at something came on the market 6 hours prior. There were already over 50 or about 1,100 views. And 50 people had liked it, probably already setting up appointments to see it. And we've gone to some open houses, and they say during the open house that it's already under agreement. Or it's just, it's really insane. So the way you know whether or not you're getting a good deal is to look and monitor the different properties and the different areas that you're looking in the price ranges on a consistent basis. Keep looking, and then you'll know what the price range should be. And then when you see something come on that really is a bargain, then you need to jump at it.
That's a great point. You know what, Todd, I'll add one thing to that because we do have a couple minutes left here, but I think it's also a matter of, know your budget. This is where a financial advisor, there's no robo-advisor is going to tell you how much you can afford. And the bank's going to try to get as much out of you as long as possible. Just because they offer you 800 doesn't necessarily mean you have to go for 800. In fact, if you set a budget of, in this scenario, $800,000 for a mortgage, then maybe the reality is like, all right, set yourself up somewhere in the 400 to 500. Give yourself enough padding that you can do the fix it, put some work into it that are going to appreciate the value. Obviously, you buy a house to have a home. The investment's like the ancillary, it's the benefit of it, but you're buying to have a residence, right? And to Todd's point, you're doing it to pay yourself, not someone else's equity, right? And so I think to those things, Alberto, you want to kind of manage those conversations. If internally, at least with a professional, they can at least be that voice of reason or a sounding board for you.
And Jorge, if I can add something
Absolutely.
else, I think is important for the public is that a lot of people, and I see this in our community. In our community, people start saving money for this goal. It's something embedded in our brain that we need to have a residence, right? We need to own it, which is not really bad. But the common denominator that I see is they start saving for that and they forget the well-being of their families. They forget about the emergency fund, and they also forget that that property is going to have some maintenance, right? That they're going to have to go to Home Depot every weekend, right? I have a house. I go to Home Depot every weekend, if not every other weekend. So it requires, maintenance, and it requires taxes, insurance. There is a lot of things that are, like Jorge said, coming to the table when it comes to owning. So have a plan in place for that as well. It's not just the beautiful idea of having a home, is the well-being of my family is important. Therefore, I'm going to sit with an expert to plan for this and to get my credit to the point where I'm going to get the best rates, right, available. That requires planning.
Yep, love it. Guys, I think we're pretty much on time. We had 2 points here. I'll tackle the first one. Just Hamilton, because I want to hear your closing remarks before we leave everybody. Some words of wisdom and building, multi-generational wealth. But Hamilton asked, how do we impact the fear around investing for the market for the Latinx community? That's simple. Keep attending things like this. Keep sharing these opportunities. What I do for my clients, I like to buy books. I like to gift books. I think that's power. It's also coming from an unbiased, a third party that's not just my opinion, but it reinforces what everybody should be talking about, right? I think the other part of that is having conversations with mama y papa and saying, look, here we are, and you've got us this far. Thank you so much. And a lot of understanding that the statistics show that the wealth management of our families in the Latinx community are actually going to be on us, whether we're wealth managers or not. That's the role we have to assume. So I think for the folks on this call and subsequent ones that will view this recording, it's really important for you to ground yourself in the family and take the lead and be the responsible one and seek professional advice. We have another comment here that was asking, how do you start a career in financial wealth management? That's simple. Understand, get in touch with either three of us. I think we're more than happy to talk and share our experiences. That's for Brian Regaldo. I think the world is your oyster. It's a people business. The rest is taught. Financials, we weren't born with finance in our head. We have an ability with numbers, but at the end of the day, this is a people business. And if you have an ability to connect with people, this might actually be a good path for you for a career to build a very fulfilling career. And the three of us here on this panel sleep very well at night because we know that the advice that we give is actually to better people's lives. All right, last words of wisdom. Make them really quick because we're about to get kicked off here. Ana, floor is yours.
Okay, guys. So words of wisdom. First of all, I will say what Jorge said. Talk to your parents, talk to your family about planning. Very, very important. Do not assume that it's expensive to work with an advisor, okay? Or that you have to wait until you have X amount of money to work with one. Decide to start dating, be open-minded, just sit down with somebody and start the process. And lastly, it is open enrollment for time for most companies, September, October, November. So download your benefit package if you work in corporate America. Don't click things that you don't have a clear understanding about. Show them to your advisors so that you can choose this based on your plan. This is really important for your family, for you, and for tax planning. That's
so good. So good. Todd, what do you got for us?
I would say try to look at really all the information that's out there and form your own opinion. There's a lot of people that have obviously biased opinions. If you look at any newspaper out there, everybody's got an opinion, every website. Read the different opinions, but then really form your own opinion and then do what you think is best for yourself. But certainly lean on advisors, do the planning. Communication is absolutely key with your family, friends, everybody. And just wish everybody the best of luck. One thing I would leave you with is, alpha. When we talk about that in the investment world, I want to thank alpha entrepreneurs. But alpha is when you're beating the market or beating the S&P 500. I would consider it when you're really just outperforming the averages. And everybody just taking the first step and attending this conference here today is going to give you a little bit of an edge over the average person out there and allow you to gain alpha. Which
so true. Oh, I love it. Let us be your secret weapon. I have some parting words. I think one of the things that I drive to my clients is start early. You should be saving at least a minimum, and I don't care where it goes, 10% of your income somewhere. Hopefully not under el colchon, under your mattress, but just save it somewhere. Savings account, CDs, somewhere. There's different philosophies about where, but specifically just save, just get in the habit. And what that's going to drive home is my behavior. That's what's going to get you guys to success. That's what's going to help you build your fortunes for the future and leave it for your children later and their children. And this is the way our community is actually going to be a go-ahead. Folks, I've been reminded here that there's another session after this one, so please do not log off. Actually, this is a really good one. I have some friends on that panel as well, and you don't want to miss it. I cannot thank you enough, Todd and Anna, for helping me share the stage with you and being a part of something that we're very passionate about, specifically for our community. Todd, you are an honorary Latino. I speak
Gracias.
Spanish to you. Hablo español contigo siempre, and he's a legit Spanish speaker, folks. Thank you so much, Alpha Entrepreneurs, Natalie, Sophia, for having us, and we'll kick the mic back to you guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to reach out to us. Maybe you can list our contact details somewhere in the chat, Sophia and Natalie. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That has been done during the whole panel. Thank you very much, Jorge, Todd, and Anna. This was amazing. I really hope everybody learned as much as I did, but also to put in practice what we just listened. Because, if we just heard this and we liked it and that's it, but we don't put it in practice, then we didn't do that much. So let's start practicing all that we have. I just took some notes, basically. So my key takeaways were like communicate. So like talk to our family. That's pretty important. Family, friends, try to educate everyone and try to get as many information as we can. Pay yourself first. That's powerful. I use it on my daily basis and it's really working, at least for me. Look for professionals. Don't listen to your coworker, to your neighbor, to your cousins, because every situation is pretty particular. So there is no such a thing as like a good or bad product out there. It's just whatever it's for you, whatever it is for your situation and for what your goals are. So thank you very much for joining us, and please stay tuned. We're going to transition to our next panel. It's going to be about how to raise capital. So please stay in here. We're going to start in just a few moments. And thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us today. So, Sophia, I'm going to pass it over to you. So
okay,
we can
give me a minute. We're going to end this session and going to the next one. Please
Perfect.
Stay tuned to share the screen. Thank you.
Thank you.